Um, so my name's Chris.
Yeah.
I am part of a team here at Kindling Farm. I have been working for Kindling for 15 years. We've been on the farm now for 2.5 years. I came to university in Manchester 20, 30 years ago and stayed and met a great group of people who felt really passionately about, um, social justice, I guess. And then we've set up projects together over the last 20, 30 years. And this is the latest project and hopefully the last project that we do, which has been the culmination of about 15 years of work around what we call food sovereignty. So in Manchester we have a lot of projects around food justice and food access. We run a veg box scheme, and for the last 15 years we were trying to find a farm around Manchester, trying to look at ways of feeding cities and communities in a sustainable way. And myself and Helen and some others came across this farm 3 years ago, and we were fortunate enough to purchase it, and we've just been working here ever since. Yeah, so we this wasn't our first choice of farm. When looking for land, you obviously don't have much choice. It's super expensive. We were looking around Manchester. We'd been offered a farm quite close to Manchester, and thankfully that fell through. And we went to our members and said, "Look, the farm we were going to buy has fallen through. Will you give us a couple more years to keep looking?" And our agent said, "Look, there's no farms on the market, and they're very expensive." And then this one came up, and it's just been brilliant. Like it's a perfect farm. The location is perfect. People around here, the neighbours have been super supportive. So thankfully, it all fell into place, and we purchased this 3 years ago. We had so our membership. We have 800 members, and they are mostly Manchester based. So we ran a community shares campaign just during COVID, actually, just before COVID, and we raised £1.3 million through community investment. And it was always about kind of collectively owning the farm together. And our members were super keen for us to purchase this farm, and the family who we bought it from were really keen for us to buy it. So the farm went on the market. We had met some of the family, and they were really keen to sell it to us. Like all farms that go on the market, a land agent comes along, and their mission is to get as much money for the seller as possible. And what they did typically was they broke it up into lots. So it was going on in 3 lots. And usually what happens is the farmyard and a couple of acres for your horses goes for a lot of money, and then the fields often go to a neighbouring farmer. But the family were really keen to keep it as one farm, so they sold it to us as 3 lots, as one farm. It cost 1.8 million to purchase, but all the value really is in the buildings. So we have gorgeous Victorian farmyard, got an old farmhouse, got lots of buildings. And although that was a bit of a stretch to purchase, it just has huge potential. So we've got 78 acres of land, so we've got 4 fields, which is perfect for our food growing, but the buildings, when we secure funding and investment, are perfect for our social justice activities. So the training, the volunteering, the residential courses. So we are really lucky.
Yeah.
It's also the location. So we're between Talbot Green and Hough Green on Netherley Road, and the public transport links are brilliant. So we've got a bus that goes past every 15 minutes, the 79C, into Liverpool or to Runcorn. Lots of our members are still based in Manchester, although more and more members are coming from Liverpool, more and more volunteers are coming from Liverpool. There's a direct train to Hough Green every hour. It's 40 minutes on the train. So it's just really accessible, both by train and motorway and public transport for all our members. And we've ended up in although on the map it looks like we're really close to Liverpool, you know, you can feel you're in the countryside.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, it's rural. It feels rural.
yeah, and the neighbours and the community and the farmers, everyone feels they're in a rural community, and there is that kind of self-help solidarity thing that goes with rural communities. So our neighbours have been really, really supportive. Families have lived here for generations, and lots of people are related. Across the road, our neighbouring farmers, they were the cousins of the previous owners. They know the land, they know the buildings, and they've just been amazing. They lend us tractors if anything breaks down. They're just over as quickly as they can. And you do, I'm not saying that doesn't happen in urban environments. It's just slightly, it's different. Yeah. So I'll talk more in a bit about our kind of purpose.
Yes,
but
that would be wonderful.
yeah, we have always been involved in social justice projects in Manchester. So I've lived for the last 20 years in Moss Side in Manchester, which is a really diverse, under-resourced community. Our projects have always been in kind of under-resourced communities, either East Manchester or in Stockport and places. And what we find is urban and rural communities have similar problems, challenges, and some of the solutions are kind of complementary. It's just more and more in this kind of black and white world, people think, you're a city dweller or a country bumpkin. And actually, you have lots of city people who have a real strong food culture, might have even come from rural communities in the global south, and I really want to get out to the countryside, and are really interested in where their food comes from. And in a rural community, one of the there's lots of kind of food poverty, oddly enough, but there's also poverty, and one of the challenges is, one of the benefits or one of the opportunities is if we can grow food and take it to the markets, then hopefully we can kind of square this circle where you've got farmers who can't afford to make a living because they're not being paid enough for their product, and then you've got predominantly urban communities who can't afford to buy food, and that's because there's someone in the middle making all the profit, and if you can bring those two things together, then, and that's kind of what we're about, really. We're a social justice organisation who wants to address food equality by bringing consumers and producers together.
Yeah, and I think, storytelling's a huge part of that, which is what this project's about, really. It's about how we tell each other stories and how those stories challenge our perception of what a farm is or what a city is or where the two meet.
I don't think people realise how far removed we have become. I've asked in Liverpool about kind of locally caught fish, and you just can't. It doesn't exist.
Which is wild, because we're a port.
Yeah, but I feel more hopeful about Liverpool than Manchester, actually. Yeah. Manchester is way too big, and you've got this kind of suburban sprawl, and you've got this economic pressure. So, a lot of our projects in Manchester city centre, you've got to drive 20 miles before you feel like you're in the countryside. I mean, I'm talking kind of farmland countryside. You can get out into the peaks, obviously, but if you want to grow veg, you've got to drive 20 miles because you're going past landscapes of horses and golf courses. But Liverpool is, you're right. It's city, and then all of a sudden, particularly if you're driving this way, you're in the countryside, and actually really productive land, really, really good soil, and still quite a strong farming community. The challenges we face is everyone is financially, struggling, and most people's money has to go on rent or a mortgage. The amount of money we now spend on food is tiny compared to what we spent in the 50s or 60s. And we're often asked, like, how do we fix a food system? And oddly enough, we think you need to fix the housing issue, because until people feel safe and secure and confident in their housing, and they have affordable housing, they're not going to spend more money on food, or they're having to work so many hours with a second job, they don't have time to cook. So, like, our view is that all the solutions that food needs and health needs are actually outside of the food and health sector. They're in how, what we are spending our money on. Mm-hmm. And ultimately that's kind of a housing issue.
Yeah.
Obviously then you've got a situation where people think, okay, well, the solution to the housing crisis is build more houses. And the plan there is to build more houses on farmland. So it's that kind of like, until we have kind of joined up thinking.
So could you give me a kind of, you've got on your website, you've got a values and mission statement about the farm. I'd also be really interested to know what you grow here, because you did just say to me outside in the gorgeous fields that you've got these polytunnels, you've got all these strawberry plants, thousands of strawberry plants, and there's a mushroom talk and walk happening today. So will you just tell me about that, if you don't mind?
Sure. So the whole farm is 78 acres. It's 4 big, square, south-facing, slightly sloping fields that run from the expressway pretty much to Tarbuck Green. It's really good soil. The neighbouring farmers have told us that these were the first couple of fields they would all get onto in the spring, because it warms up quickly and it dries well. There's ditches around most of the fields. The fields have got ponds, so they drain well. And there's a lot of wildlife and nice big trees and really old hedges. And previously, before we purchased it, it was farmed by a neighbouring farmer. And like a lot of the farmland around here, what's usually grown is oilseed rape, cereals or potatoes. A lot of that will either go for food processing, so I think the potatoes went for chips, or for animal feed. Mm-hmm. So although there is a lot of growing around here, there's no real veg production. It is good veg growing land, but for a whole range of reasons, most veg production now is happening up Ormskirk Way. The mission of the farm is to grow as much organic produce, fresh fruit and veg, to supply into Liverpool and Manchester. And our farming principles are organic, so we don't use artificial fertilisers, we don't use pesticides, we do a lot of kind of mechanical weed control. We are stock free, which simply means that we don't bring on animal manures and stuff, and that's a very practical reason, because bringing on organic manures is almost impossible. You just can't find the quantities, and increasingly people are concerned about manures and crap and sewage and all sorts coming onto farms from outside, because they'll have lots of chemicals in them or microplastics. So we all our fertiliser, all our soils are fed through green manure. So we plant a lot of crops or kind of plants that fix their own nitrogen. So clovers and ryegrasses and vetches and stuff. And then the other part of our organic system is we do crop rotation. So you might remember from biology at school, you would 7-year crop rotation, and that's simply you're moving your plants around so the diseases don't build up. And then also we use agroforestry as a method. So agro is simply farming, and then forestry is trees. So we have a lot of kind of fruit trees in the fields. So if you went out to one of the fields now, you would see a field of like 20 acres, and down the length of it, you would see rows and rows of apple trees. So I think we've planted about nearly 2,000 apple trees so far, and the purpose is we have a row of apple trees. Each row will have 70, 80 apples in them. Each apple tree is like 4 meters apart. Each one has a different variety. So, and then between the rows of apple trees, we've got 24 meters. That's what we call an alley, and that's where we grow our veg. So out in field number 3, we're growing in the alleys celery, beetroot, rainbow chard. Our spinach failed this year. Our courgettes have done really well. We've got lots of brassicas, so red and white cabbage and kale, and lots of squash, lots of winter squash. This is our first growing year, so we're only growing on maybe 15 acres. Subsequent years we'll kind of increase that once we get our systems in place. So yeah, out in the fields, the purpose is to grow as much field veg as possible, and in a couple of years' time our apple trees will be big enough to provide apples.
Wow.
And the point of agroforestry is it kind of helps with soil health. The trees help with shading and breaking up the wind speeds, but you also end up with a range of different crops. So if your spinach fails, you've still got apples to harvest. So yeah, that's what's happening in the fields, and then at the top of field 2 near the farmyard, we're doing more kind of what you call market gardening, so horticulture. So we've got our first polytunnel up. It's 24 meters by 30 meters, and we've got tomato plants in there and spring onions, and then we've got strawberries. Yeah, and then about 25% of the farm is given over to wildlife, so a lot of biodiversity measures. Lots of ponds have been dug, wildflower meadows, lots of hedges have been planted. Then, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You've been here how long did you say?
Almost 2.5 years now.
It's not very long, is it?
No.
But is this a group effort? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's like the members will come and work.
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah, so the team here, there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
So we've got farm manager.
You all live here?
No, so only a couple of people live here. So when we moved here, we thought that we would be offering the farmhouse to a farm manager.
Mm-hmm.
We would offer it to, somebody local, hopefully somebody who might want to raise their family here. That hasn't worked out yet. So we've got a farm manager. There's myself and Helen. We do the development side of it. And then we've got someone doing our community engagement work and someone doing our admin. And then every other weekend we have volunteers. So we have 800 members who are invited to come and help out. Yeah, so just on our website. And yeah, it's every other Saturday and Sunday, and then the first Monday of the month.
Okay.
And that's kind of we want people to learn about farming. We want people to be involved in the food growing process, and we just need help because, as you can see, it's
a lot.
Endless. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people around, especially the people who come to the exhibition. It'll be in Kirby Gallery. I'm sure there's people visiting it because they're interested in food. So awesome. Maybe I can write somewhere on the note to go with the podcast that people can volunteer. And volunteering in places like Kindling Farm, it really helps you to awaken.
Yeah, I think what we found is that so what happens more and more is that this responsibility of climate change and inequality is placed on the individual. So you're told to make consumer choices and do this and not do that, and there's an element of guilt that comes with that. And actually our view is that actually the system kind of forces you down a certain route, and very often some of the solutions we all come up with are quite disempowering, because we kind of reinforce that view that you should do this and you shouldn't do that. And if you aren't able to do that because you don't have the time or the money, that's counterproductive. It's really disempowering. So our approach is more kind of collective action, because it can feel overwhelming as an individual. But if you all come together and, you know, they've gone out and they'll be harvesting a couple hundred squash, or they'll weed a big patch, or you know, they'll do something. So for us, volunteering is very much about being outside, meeting people, but there is a purpose to it, and there is definitely a mission and, you know, a target at the end of the day.
Can I ask you about yourself? What motivated you into this? Because you've been doing this a long time. What would you say, like, as a child, did you feel this way? Were you a bit, were you...
Yeah, so I grew up just outside Oxford, so in a lovely market town, with lots of family around, and a very safe place to go and explore and play and stuff. So wildlife and kind of fishing and all that kind of stuff played a big role in my upbringing. And then I came to university, and I got involved in a lot of kind of politics and kind of protest, and yeah, spent a lot of time at protests and getting arrested and stuff, and felt that that's really important, and we don't say no enough, and we don't stop things enough, but equally we don't, it's very difficult to see kind of what we're about. So I think I grew up in that era of kind of green consumerism, which didn't feel quite right, and we wanted, after university, to kind of show what we thought were the real solutions, which was definitely about community, definitely about social justice and collective kind of action, and pushing back against, you know, if you earn enough money, then you can buy greener products. Our view was, we just need to buy less stuff and grow more stuff. So then, one of our first projects was we bought this warehouse in East Manchester, and set it up as an environment centre. And then, for years and years we set up projects in Manchester, and then about 15 years ago we kind of settled on food, as we regard Kindling as a social justice organisation, and we use food as a vehicle for storytelling or conversations or action. So yeah, we were doing a lot of food access projects, so vans going around under-resourced communities. And just that perfect thing of actually getting food to people in an affordable way is important, but also what the food is and how the food is grown and who's growing it is also important. And actually that's still quite rare to find people and projects that are thinking at both ends. So we knew that if we wanted to create any solutions, we had to be both growing the food well, and also being involved in its distribution. Eventual kind of hope of having a shop and a cafe. No, at the moment most of our produce goes into Manchester, because that's where our existing markets are. Hope is to have a veg box schemes. So we want to maybe establish one of those in Liverpool next year. And then but for now, just supplying people like Queen of Greens, a couple of local shops, just slowly kind of building relationships up.
So I've got two more things I want to ask you. You talked to me before about the mushroom education and the bat education. Is this something you do, talks, programs, and who are you seeing come into them, and can people just book on and come? So the farm is very much an educational tool as well as a food producing business. So we want as many people to come here and as possible. The Hayley, community engagement worker, is doing a fantastic job. So we've had everything from
bat walks, bird days, butterfly walks, fungus walk today, tree identification. So lots around kind of wildlife, and wildlife is another thing that is people are passionate about and interested in, and it means you can start a conversation with people because everyone's concerned about the extinction of bees and stuff, and one of the easiest solutions for that is buying organic food, and there still hasn't been the link made between kind of this kind of wildlife extinction and the solution of organic farming.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to kind of have these wildlife talks, but then also talk about the impact of conventional farming on insect numbers and bird populations and stuff. So yeah, we've got a program around wildlife and then heritage as well. So yeah, there's a big program. It's all on our website and on our Facebook page. And yeah, we spent this year, because we've only been doing this since April, kind of finding out what people are interested in, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so inspiring.
We're very lucky. It's very cool.
What's your hope for the future? It can be very short.
So I guess our hope for the future is we get more and more people involved. At the moment, most of our members are from Manchester, so eventually we would like the membership and the involvement to kind of be 50-50. We want it to be seen as a farm for both Manchester and Liverpool. We have an awful lot to do here. We just finished a consultation with our members and our neighbours about exactly what they'd like to see. But yeah, in the next 5-10 years, cafe, shop, training venue, residential space, and then lots of people just using it as they wish.